Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels and the formerly Fourth World Book Club, now the book club to be named later, with Mark Pracht and Sharon Harklerode. And we're going to go adjacent to the Kree Skrull War. Or, well, no, not adjacent to the Kree Skrull War. We're going to the Kree Skrull War, which was adjacent to Fourth World. They were coming out semi simultaneously in the 70s and taking both universes in a cosmic direction. So what did we think of the first three issues of the Kree Skrull War? With
Uh,
it was Sal Buscema on pencils, Roy Thomas writing. Does that sound
the
right?
great, the great Sal Buscema.
I
Yeah.
would say the
And
great Sal Buscema.
yeah, um, I will tell you, it after 15 months of reading The Fourth World, I felt like, okay, so there's 9 issues in this collected edition. And I think there
hmm
was ancillary books that sort of tied into it, but that's not included in what we're reading, which is fine.
I
Um,
mean, like everything I've read, because I was looking to see if we were supposed to read more, and I haven't found anything. I think it might have just been these nine.
um, I like I was very happy that it felt like somebody knew, like it feels like everybody knows where they're heading,
Yeah.
you know? Like there's a plan that doesn't that and granted, like what Kirby was doing, and look, we started talking about the Fourth World, so and the whole reason that I suggested this was because it was sort of happening at the same time. Is that, Kirby's sort of like shotgun approach to ideas, this is so tied into what the concurrent Marvel continuity, uh Captain Marvel. I always love
Before he
the
dies
hy
of cancer.
the hyphen. Um, is clearly this is wrapping up stuff from his canceled series, right?
Right.
And I dug that. I I dug that these first 3 issues did not involve like what we would consider the core Avengers lineup.
Nope.
I liked having the sort of ancillary Avengers characters there. I liked that the uh Ronan the Accusers, like, you know, I think Sean, right before we said it started saying they called this the Kree Skull War and Skrull War, and I'm like, but clearly that's what we're heading towards, because like in that
Right.
last
The
issue,
scrolls get mentioned in the third issue here.
right?
Right.
And then but like I can see somebody going like, okay, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. And I dug it.
I mean, at the end of issue one, it feels like we're setting up the Kree Earth
Mhm.
War.
Right. Well, and I thought the Kree plan was, I mean, it was comic book hokum, but it was also pretty clear what they were doing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that after 15 months of sort of like bouncing off the walls and being totally in love with the artwork and the ideas, but not feeling like it was really controlled, this feels like a nice, solid, streamlined Marvel Bronze Age story. And the other thing is, after reading that much Kirby, you can totally see how the Kirby style was folded into everyone, like especially
Oh, absolutely.
Buscema's. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts right off the bat.
But also, you can tell how even when something's overwritten, which this is still overwritten, as is the era. Um, Thomas is more polished than Kirby as a writer.
100%. Well, and Thomas also kind of has a handle on the kids slang that Jack doesn't really have, you know. And
It,
I had
it
totally,
could be a little much still, though.
oh, sure.
Oh
No,
yeah,
no.
no, I mean
Uh,
it's
let's not.
completely indicative of almost all of the. He does not transcend the comic writing style of the era.
It is
He's just
hokey.
on the good end of
The
the
Rick
comic writing
Jones
style
stuff,
of the era.
and I hate the portrayal of Goliath in this. I it, it's like he's Hawkeye. When did he talk? Why did he get dumber as he gets bigger? I don't understand.
Totally same size brain.
But
Well,
right.
I had totally forgotten because when I started reading it, I'm like, oh, this is when Clint Barton became Goliath, and I but I had to like somehow I totally like blanked that that had ever happened.
I had
But
two.
uh, it was like, oh, but you know what? The thing was, is it was clear like immediately.
Yeah.
I
Well,
would, you know, there is something to say for that Stan Lee attitude of every comic is somebody's first, so you have to make things clear when you first pick it up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will also say that these three issues, well, they're tying together a nice introduction to what's coming. Um, I think they stand alone, each one of them.
Yeah.
You know, this is like the every comic is someone's first at its height. You know,
Hmm.
this is the yeah, we're doing storylines, but at that point they weren't really collected. So you know, it's all about let's make this work as is. Um
Well, and I also liked
I,
how, you know, essentially we're reading the first act of this overall storyline, and I felt like it came to a really good conclusion. Like
mhm.
the first whatever, you know, the Kree element of it, we resolved that, and now we're going to go on to the next thing. So,
Or at least they've gone, oh, wait, we can't destroy the earth right now because we have a common foe. I
sorry.
kind of like that. There was a certain realism to, oh, wait, uh uh you're not really winning this war. We're giving up because there's this more important thing. I know we were just trying to kill you. Would you help us out?
hmm,
'Cause like uh, uh, when you're talking about big huge things, so often that's like how things work. The common enemy is so much more than
You may have read further than I did because when I got to the end of the third one, I didn't think that like it was still like they needed to the Kree needed to go back because of the
right.
Skrulls.
I mean, I
But
guess they haven't said, "Will you help us out?" But I think that to me, I felt like there was an implication that like because we have the scrolls involved, um because our only reference to the scrolls before this was them being involved with Mr. Fantastic. And I did read this long ago, but I don't remember for certain. Maybe I wind up being wrong, and we don't get involved on either side. I honestly don't remember. But
I
I did feel
Yeah,
like it was more than we beat back the Kree. The Kree went, oh, we have this other more important thing to do.
sure.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I got the sense that well, this storyline's over for now, but the threat still exists. That's kind of where I left.
yeah.
I
Well,
Um,
but
mean,
that's
I
and
also the case anytime like we kind of viewed the Russians as a threat before World War II, and then they were our allies for 10 years, and then they were the threat again. You know.
hmm.
Um, I mean, when you're talking about global or in this case intergalactic politics, things are very rarely as simple as you all bad, you all good.
Unless you're an Avenger.
I
If you're an
mean,
Avenger, you're an
have
Avenger
you
all the way.
have you read either of the Civil Wars?
The Civil Wars do not exist in this dojo. Um,
I read the first one.
yeah.
First one's pretty fantastic. The second one's actually, I think, better than it gets credit for. Um, but
I
has
Well,
has the problem of having to be compared to the first one.
yeah, I think for me, I love this lineup. This is the lineup that I would, um, when I was a kid, you know, Quicksilver, Wanda, the Vision, Hank and Janet, and Goliath. I used to play with, you guys remember that big tall doll, Quasar?
Yep.
So I played with Quasar as Goliath when I was playing with my Migos. But anyway, so yeah,
I
for me, this reminds me of that the great George Perez Avengers
yeah.
of a few years later. So it was really nice to kind of read something earlier in that run uh,
Yeah.
uh, before things get too weird with Wanda and Pietro. Um, so I really love that. Um, honestly, I this is not at all what I was expecting when you say we're going to read the Kree Skrull War. Uh, it's all Earthbound, and I'm like, what is this? And Marvel and Rick and Annihilus. I'm like, well, this is they certainly the first issue, you know, Roy did his homework in putting
Hmm.
this storyline together, right? Like they reference, this was in Fantastic Four, and I think in this we have it doesn't really have the issue references in it, does it? There are a couple of times when I couldn't find the issues that it was referencing. Maybe that was
I read it on Marvel Unlimited, so I had lots of issue references.
yeah.
I think they were in there.
There was
I can't remember.
one that was missing, or maybe just the way it got clipped. Uh,
Hmm.
but anyway, you could
Like,
see that history was all just pieced together,
yeah.
uh, which I really liked. Um,
Well, yeah, it's sort of the best of that idea of it. It's like the Marvel Bronze Age where there was all that stuff that Stan and Jack did and that was building up and they were and letting somebody come in and be like, how do I start knitting this stuff together? And I always like that. I mean, just because it's fun and it helps build that unified universe thing. And like I think and forgive me because I don't want to continually be like, well, comparing it to the fourth world, but like the characterizations are so sharp, actually. Like I feel like every single one of these characters, I'm like, yeah, that's who that is. Yeah, that's who that is. You can say Clint got a little dumber when he became Goliath, but I mean, like at the same
But
time,
part
like
of that was also in story because they were in that place that was making everybody dumber.
sure, 100%. Um,
And
I
he's
do
breathing
think
in more of the air because he's Goliath now.
as
wow,
long as
Tad,
there's
what's Roy paying you for this?
you're no
Sorry,
you're
Roy, he's
no
not paying you anything.
your no prize is in the mail.
Why did I think that that
Actually,
was even mentioned? I felt like that
I,
was in the text somewhere,
it might
but
have
maybe
been.
I'm
I don't
wrong.
know. Like, but here's the three
Yeah, I
things
mean, he is
that
changing, but it's kind of at the very beginning of it. I don't know. It's that whole let's make someone talk like this because we have to have it's the fake tension that they always try to build up in the Marvel books where the
yeah,
heroes are always about to fight,
sure.
right? That frankly gets a little old for me. Particularly, it's like how they always have
Wow.
Ben ready to
To
fight
quit.
Reed,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I'm like, come on.
Well, that's an element of his insecurity about himself, you see. And Clint has the same thing.
Right.
Um, there was three things that I noticed. One, this very much sets up the Hank Pym is more than happy to smack the shit out of Jan at any moment. When he smacks her off that dragonfly, I was like, whoa. Um, uh, to what Tad said about overwritten, you can totally tell that this is a Marvel Method book because there's so many times when the word balloons like have to go outside the panel, and
Right.
sometimes they cross over with the one above, and I found myself at times going like, okay, am I supposed to read, do I follow the word balloon into this panel or to this panel? So that was cute. But then on a more interesting note, what I loved about these three issues was that this lineup of the Avengers was so outmatched by Ronin and the Sentry. Like they they were on their heels like the entire story, you know?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I love that. I actually love that. And when I flip through to the next issue that we're getting to with the cover with Cap and Iron Man and Thor come, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you're out," and I'm
Right.
like, "Okay, that they kind of set that up," and I kind of loved it. So
Yeah, I love I don't know if we want to I'm kind of skipping forward to, later in this run when Ronan, they're setting up, the love interest between Vision and Wanda, and there's that
yeah,
scene where they almost kiss, and
Yep.
it's amazing, really.
yeah,
Uh, and then Ronan is like, oh, uh, I just was kind of taken aback by that scene,
yeah.
how well done it was. Um, yeah, it's
Oh
in
yeah,
issue 91 of
and
just the lips getting closer.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I thought that was really well done. That's also the
Sal
same
J.
issue where Ronan turns green on the cover, but I don't
Mhm.
not sure the cover of 91.
Yeah. Oh, but Sal's on fire here.
Yeah.
Like that page right before that one with the kiss, like the image of the Sentry and the flames at the top is just like fuck,
Yes.
just awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's another, and this is a coloring issue. I know Rick Jones is kind of lit by flames in my memory. It's like, wow, it's really,
Yeah.
really well done.
Yeah. But yeah, and like look, like there's things in here, I'm not like I think Marvell um is kind of an interesting character in the overall, like he's sort of the forgotten character. Like the only thing he's really known for is dying, you know, and then they immediately replaced him with, Carol.
Yeah.
And well, and they had different Captain Marvels around the time and but like I was sort of taken about like I never like again this whole series was sort of a blind spot for me. This was I would have been this was when I was like 1, 2 years old, so I wouldn't be reading comics, like I think it's that Perez run that Sean's talking about that really is where I remember the Avengers. But I like the contentiousness between him and Rick about their shared existence. I was just digging all of that. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, it's interesting. I was never a big Captain Marvel fan, um, but it never really hit me. They're exchanging places uh, to go back into, uh, negative
The
zone.
negative zone?
Yeah. it never really struck me how very similar that actually is to another Captain Marvel.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, I was like, wow, that's a little on the nose.
yeah.
Uh,
I felt that. I felt that as well. I thought that was, I mean, like,
and Rick is wearing yellow and red.
yeah, yeah. No, I think there's just like, I really like, it makes me want to go back and read like the original Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Um,
I was expecting some Jim Starlin-esque
hmm
adventure in this. And
Yeah,
um, not disappointed, just because I like to say I enjoyed this. Um, but it was not at all what I had expected when I expected to see us spanning the stars,
right.
and maybe that's
Well,
coming.
it certainly seems like that's what like the cover of the collected edition like suggests that. And I mean, I think again, I like I read that article in back issue where they go through the whole plot, but you know, back issue articles are always I love them to death, but they are all so dense that a lot of times I'm like right through my head.
Right.
Um, so I'm
So as you bring up back issue, did you know that Roy Thomas is the current editor of Alter Ego?
yeah, he's been the
Okay.
editor of Alter Ego for since its inception, I believe.
And
Right.
I figured that. I just like didn't know that he was still working.
Well, I mean, I think
And
that's all he
Yeah.
really does.
I think it is.
I
I
think
mean,
he's
like,
going to be at Heroes Con.
yeah. Well, he's got that. He tomorrow is published the first volume of his, autobiography. Uh, that's come out. I think it's out now, but I think that's why he's going to Heroes Con is to promote that. But and that's that Marvel Method Facebook group, they've erupted into, Roy Thomas is a liar and Roy
Right.
Thomas doesn't know what he's talking about. And right, it's like, I don't know, were you there? Yeah.
Well,
I
that
did
that
the
whole group is,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks, Harlan. Um, no, it was funny. Actually, this is a total tangent, but it made me really happy was that somebody had posted excerpts from Kirby's interview with um, Gary Groff, that his famously like Stan did nothing interview, and somebody was posting excerpts of that, and they were pointing out that like a lot of Kirby's points don't make chronological sense with what, history and the time period. And I put something up and I said, like it's very clear that both of these men don't really remember what happened very well, and they see it in their own, basically like talking about the Roddenberry effect. And Jerry Beck liked my comment. Jerry Beck is the one person that liked that comment. And I was just like, I'm so tired of this argument. And I was like, if you know, Jerry Beck, famous animation
Right.
historian, does the does the commentaries on all the Looney Tunes cartoons. So I I felt very justified in my opinion that Jerry Beck liked it. He doesn't remember me at all or know me. So but damn it, he liked what I wrote. Anyway, but no,
My tangent and tying to the Kirby's, did you notice that the first credit is for the editor in all of these
oh yeah.
books?
Oh, Stan Lee editor.
Well, like look, that was the period though. I mean, because Stan was
Yeah,
still there.
right.
He hadn't left to go to Los Angeles yet. And but he was just overseeing the line and they found that he was the face of the company. Everything said Stan Lee presents. So
Right.
um, and by his own admission, he really wasn't overseeing everything, especially, I think, especially where Roy was concerned. I think he trusted Roy implicitly. So, but I do, it is funny because I've been doing some reading lately about Jim Shooter, and I find it interesting that both Jim Shooter and Roy Thomas worked for Mort Weisinger at DC and then got fed up, as most people did with Mort, uh, and then went over to Marvel, where Stan sort of like loved both of them, and eventually they both became the AICs. So, you know, I
Well,
think it,
Roy kind of ran screaming from
yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, and let's
like
be
Jim
fair,
had a longer
Jim
relationship. Roy was
Jim was
like,
there. Jim was also 14 years old. So, I
right,
mean,
right,
but I just, yeah, Roy worked for Mort for like a week and ran screaming. So, I
right,
mean,
right.
that's a little different thing, but I do it almost makes you think that Stan's sitting over there going like, "Oh, can't deal with Mort. I'll put you to work just to thumb my nose at that guy or whatever, the distinguished competition. But that's all sort of ancillary. I think, uh, we're talking about this, and this in a lot of ways, when you talk about Roy Thomas as a writer or as a creator or as a collaborator, kind of the two big things, or the big thing, of course, is Conan, right?
Hmm.
I think that's what he's most known for.
Yep.
Um,
And it's
but
great stuff. I mean, as I
yeah,
remember, I haven't read it in 20 years, but I read all the way through all of it, I think.
yeah.
But
Well, yeah. I mean, like it's Roy. He wrote it. He did well enough that at one point he was supposed to write the movie. You know. Um, but I mean, I also feel like this storyline is sort of his big what?
I'm just thinking of him turning in a novel with highlighted passages.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. But I do think that, Kree Skrull War is uh, sort of his kind of big storyline as far as the Marvel characters are concerned, because like I think that obviously it's Conan bringing Star Wars to Marvel, um, and like this storyline. And I will say, I think that he has like it's overwrought, but I mean, you totally see why Stan trusted him because he mastered the Stan Lee-isms of it.
Right.
And I think he also understood the of consistency of character, consistency of storyline, keeping everything clear and not meandering, which I won't bring it up again. But I think it is interesting to think that this is on the same, this is on the rack right next to, New Gods or Forever People or whatever. I think that that's interesting.
It is.
And to Tad's point about overwritten again, it's so overwritten. There's even dialogue on the covers, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
you just don't see anymore. Remember? I mean, it
No,
used
but
to be
it was
so
definitely
common.
part of the era.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, now you got to go to Archie to get dialogue on your cover.
I mean,
Right.
occasionally they'll pop up randomly, but like when it pops up now, it's almost an homage to the era where it was regular,
Yeah.
not something that's just automatic.
I,
Um,
I I always love those stories where Stan would put all this dialogue on the cover, right? And then they would hear that DC was like, those books are selling because they have dialogue on the cover. We should put dialogue all over our covers. And then Stan would be like, nope, taking it off. I mean, and it's like, I think that kind of that kind of rivalry is so much fun to think about now.
Yeah.
I mean,
What we really need is a checkerboard border.
it
When
looked like
did
pop art.
Fourth World start?
Um,
71?
71, I think.
But what month?
I don't remember. It
It
was
was earlier than June, wasn't it?
I think so.
So I wonder if there was a certain element of Stan going, Jack's going over there and he's doing this thing. Roy, I need something with space, other
I,
planets. Go.
I I think that that's altogether possible, but I also think that if he'd really wanted to fuck with
August
Jack,
25th, 1970.
1970, that's right. So
Is
yeah,
the Jack? Okay, yeah.
is yeah. I mean, like I think
That's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number
Right.
133.
I would, my guess would be that might have happened, but I also think that this is so jacked into like 10 different storylines that were already running, you know?
Right.
I think if Stan really wanted to do that, and I think it would have been supremely crappy for him to do. And I think that the fact that he didn't do it is probably, is something to be commented upon. Because
Right.
Stan could have easily been like, all right, Jack left. Let's go ahead and do that Ragnarok idea that he wanted to do, you know? Because he could have done
Oh,
it.
he could have.
And and just, blown up Asgard and started anew, you know? And I think that that might have been, I think if he really wanted to do something like that, he could have done it. But I think the thing about the Bronze Age, as the Marvel Bronze Age, right? Which is this sort of era of big egos, as big an ego as you get in sort of a marginalized medium like comic books. But I mean, like you have all these, writer artists or writer editors who are working kind of independently, and they're all former fanboys that wanted to write comics, right? And I think that that's really what we're seeing here is that you have Roy Thomas who grew up reading the early Stan and Jack stuff. And like I said, he was like Alter Ego started as a fanzine back in the 60s, right? So um he's been writing about these storylines, and like obviously he is sort of the preeminent Golden Age guy, bringing back the Golden Age characters. Um, I think he just had this list of stuff. He was like, well, maybe I take this and that and that. I think that it in a way, the Bronze Age is when Marvel becomes kind of incestuous in that it's just sort of feeding upon itself, right? Which in a way is healthy because, it's feeding upon its own mythology rather than trying to develop new stuff, right? There's nothing in these books that isn't established somewhere else in the Marvel universe. And I think that it's trying to use those elements that are already there in a way that's interesting. So, and that leads
That
into the,
also makes sense.
yeah. Because yeah, I mean that's like to me that's the real difference here between looking at like New Gods uh and this, right? Because bear with me, I'm going to bring up Star Wars. It's sort of like watching George Lucas do Star Wars, where he's interested in saying something about life or what he sees as people and what he sees as politics. And then there's the people at Disney who are making Star Wars who are just saying, look at what I love about Star Wars, right? Because
Right.
like, and there's nothing wrong with either one of those things because I think this is I think Kree Skrull War is a really good story, well told, that is just like, this is the stuff that I loved from when Stan and Jack were doing this book, and let's run with it, or what we were doing, whereas Jack's trying to create something whole cloth. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Have a nice day.
Yeah. My Tad Talk.
I'm just flipping through the Marvel fandom wiki to see if it has any more information on spin-offs because the regular Wikipedia only lists um more recent things. There's stuff in New Avengers Illuminati. There's stuff in um there's tie-ins
Well,
in
yeah.
Avengers Forever and
Well,
Captain America Reborn,
it
but the
was
only
very
like
difficult
the
with
only contemporary tie-in was Marvel Team Up #5, Spider-Man and Vision. It's
Well,
actually
yeah, I mean,
Spider-Man
but
and the
like
Human Torch, but Vision was in it.
that's
with
also go ahead, Sean.
I know from the Avengers Defenders War um, that it was very tricky to get books out in a certain order at
Yeah.
that point. So they may not have, bothered
Right.
with
Well,
doing
and
that because
you
I
know,
know that was very difficult.
the other thing is like at this time, like you're talking almost 100% news sans tales, right? So like this idea of having some plot line that tied into every single issue probably wasn't the sales bonanza that like it
Oh
just
no.
became
Right.
frustrating for everybody. So, I mean, I think that it's interesting as you talk about you're looking at the things that are tied in. They're all like years after the fact, right?
Decades later.
Yeah. And like honestly, that makes me less interested in it unless
I
you
mean, overall, I'm mildly interested because of some of the creative teams.
sure. Well,
You
and I know
know,
like
so
Avengers Forever I've heard is really great. I
yeah,
haven't read it myself, but I've heard it's a
yeah,
really
yeah.
good storyline.
And I
Um
had never heard of this Avengers Defenders War, but it's a Steve Englehart thing, so I might have to
yeah.
like go look at it.
And
Uh,
that's pure Bronze Age hokum too, if I remember correctly, right?
yeah. I mean, look, as well, I need to check. I used to have every issue of the Defenders, but
The synopsis is the Avengers battle the Defenders for possession of the Evil Eye. Eventually, the two teams realize they are pawns of Loki and Dormammu and work together to stop Earth from being absorbed into the dark dimension.
Dormammu.
That
Dormammu.
the
that
Dread
feels
Dormammu.
that feels
Dread.
pretty Bronze Age.
Well, yeah, all you needed is just needed to put Mephisto in there and you could have had the trifecta of
But I've always
evil.
loved the Defenders, so as soon as you said that, I like
The world's greatest non-team.
yeah.
Right?
But they had some like cool issues, some great covers.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, like, look, whenever you read something from every time I read stuff from the Bronze Age, I'm always like, this is the greatest. Like, uh, like my gateway drug to comic books was without a doubt Brave and Bold.
Okay.
Like, uh, it's Jim Aparo artwork in the main. Uh, Haney. God, I can't remember his first name now. Haney, the Haney verse, where nothing made sense with anything outside that
Isn't it
book.
Bob Haney?
Bob
Yeah.
Haney, that's right. Yeah. They refer, because like he would just do whatever he wanted, whether it made sense with anything else or not. And I love those books. I love those books. They introduced me to all of those other characters. I mean, like I love Metamorpho because of Brave and Bold. I love like everything. And like it's also because not that comics were a big business, but they weren't this massive like corporate, you know, everything's got to be synergized. We got a million, marketing things and
Well, and I think you've just given me an idea for where I'd love this book club to go. Let's what do you think is staying in the Bronze Age, but mostly being like B-list type stuff, like the hidden
uh
gems of the Bronze Age. Um,
that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah,
The Men of Bronze.
I like that.
Well, that means that after we finish the Kree Skrull War, we have to do Metal Man.
I mean, I'm down with that. I haven't
I
read
thought you were going to
a
go with
lot of
Dr. Banner.
original Metal Men, but I like the Metal Men that I've read in the more recent. There was a
Oh
Metal
man,
Men
look,
in uh Wednesday comics that I really enjoyed.
Oh, Wednesday Comics is great.
Oh, Wednesday
Dan
comics is
DiDio,
amazing.
Dan DiDio,
No, no, no,
the
no, no, no,
biggest.
no. Mark Chiarello.
They
It was Mark
called
Chiarello's baby.
Yellow.
Um, but anyway, I think not to get off, but that's a great idea. Uh, I think the Bronze Age just makes me so happy. I can't even tell you. But
Well, and here's a little tidbit. The artistic creator of Metal Men and the artistic creator of the Defenders is the same. They're both Ross Andrew. Robert Kanigher and Ross Andrew for Metal Men, and Roy Thomas and Ross Andrew for the Defenders.
mhm. Um, but anyway, I don't know. I think oh, the other thing that I loved in this book, which is pure Bronze Age, like we have to explain shit that we don't need to explain, is how they kept talking about how their costumes had thermal underwear.
Right, right.
And I'm like, Goliath is basically half naked. I don't know if that's going to help him at all.
No, well, and like towards finding more of this stuff, you guys are just enough older than me to have read more of this stuff as it came out. I had a collection that involved a lot of this stuff, but it was kind of specific. It was a lot of Spectacular Spider-Man. It was a lot of Daredevil. It was a lot of um drawing a blank on the other titles that my uncle seemed most into. Um and like I've definitely wanted to mine more of this era because it's so clear how many of my favorite writers and artists from modern era are very much influenced by this. But I truly believe that every generation the low bar in comics goes up. The best of the best comics from one generation can be compared across generations, but like the worst comics of the 90s are nowhere near as bad as the worst comics of the 70s. At least when you're talking about like the big two.
John and I are
Um,
both doing the same face.
no, I get that, and like I get that they're fighting words and whatever. But I've always found it hard to penetrate without having a guide some of those eras because again, the best are every bit as good, and the mid level are every bit as good as or better. But I'll like if I go in randomly and I find the book that I just can't stand.
You know what? Here's what's funny, right? And I'll speak for this, and I hope Sean can probably back me up. Is that like as a kid in the 1970s, like you would go into like I would go into the drugstore and go up to the magazine rack and I would just sort of and it was sort of the luck of the draw what was in there, because
Right.
like the distributor wouldn't you wouldn't pick out that you wanted such and such a titles. They would just bring you
No,
a big box of comics, right?
right.
And so like the idea of like that's sort of like like a plot line that you're trying to follow, then that's why, when you get into the 80s and we're old enough to be haunting comic book shops and we're like, I read such and such and it was to be continued and then I never could find that next issue. So now I have to find that next issue because I need to know what happened, and that there's this randomness to the way comics were in the 70s,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like potluck or you just like you just pull out a like it's why the covers were so important, right? It's why, they had Jack Kirby draw so many covers. It's why they had Carmine Infantino draw so many covers. Is that they knew how to draw a cover that would make people go, "Oh, I'll read that." And then you open it
Right.
up, and you know what? Look, I'm not trying to say I don't think that Sean or I are trying to say that every comic that came out in the 70s was some sort of piece of gold. But I think that,
And I hope you don't think I'm saying that any of them were necessarily pieces of crap.
well, yeah, but what I'm saying is like I think there is a cynicism. I think that the look on my face, and maybe Sean would agree with me, is that there was a cynicism to the bad comics of the 90s that made me feel a bit insulted.
Okay, I
When
suppose
I read a bad comic from the 70s, I'm like, yeah, that just didn't work,
I suppose
or
I might exclude the 90s as a decade from because I agree. Some of the bad comics of the I mean, I don't know what happened to comics in the 90s, but like well, I do. I do. They took the wrong message from Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen.
well,
Right.
they also it was also when you had the real like superstar artists,
Right.
right? Who didn't particularly care about the story,
Right.
you know, and that, like, God bless those image guys. They had the right idea, but I mean, like, all of their ideas were basically like, let me do my own version of Batman. Let me do my own version
Right.
of the X-Men. And it's like, okay, great. Okay, yeah, okay, that's your Wolverine. Okay.
Right.
And it's just like, and that's what I'm talking about. That I think in the 70s,
They're overdrawn.
yeah, that's true.
Right.
But
Well,
I mean, like,
and go ahead.
in the 70s, you may have Steve Gerber smoking way too much pot and coming up with something, that just is sort of like meandering and rambling. But then you also have Steve Gerber smoking too much pot and coming up with Howard the Duck.
Right.
It's like
I
that
love
stuff
Howard the
is
Duck.
everybody loves Howard the Duck. I was listening. I was listening. Apparently, Robin Williams had like a radio interview show in the 90s. And I was listening to it because I got on one where he was interviewing Harlan Ellison, and it was brilliant. But he also interviewed George Lucas. And George Lucas starts going off, like I've had this idea where I want to redo Howard the Duck with a CGI duck, and then I want to get a better voice for it, maybe like you. And and Robin goes, "Oh, you want to remake it?" He's like, "No, no, no. I just put the CGI duck into the movie that already exists." And he's like, "If you hated it once, you'll hate it again." It just made me laugh. But I mean, but that's that. I mean, like everything I've read about Marvel in the 1970s, and like this, I mean, like we're kind of way off of the war here, um,
Okay.
but
I,
is Sean's just leaving.
Oh no, I picked up a Bronze Age gem that I was going to share.
Um, but I mean, like when you read about it, I mean, especially when you read about it from like Jim Shooter's perspective, like Marvel in the late 70s, by the late 70s was absolute chaos, you know, like no one, Stan had gone off to LA, and they had this rotating stream of EICs, and everybody who was in EIC, when they left the EIC, they let them be their writer editor. So they were all behind schedule. Everybody was stoned, and everybody was coming up with just bizarre ass stories that made no sense to anybody but themselves. It's awesome. That's all. That's the end point of my story.
speaking of awesomeness, Steve Gerber and Gene Colan, the Phantom Tales from the Phantom Zone.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Only it's a DC Phantom Zone.
Well, yeah, it's Superman Phantom Zone, not the
Oh,
negative.
negative zone. Okay.
Negative zone. Negative zone.
So it's just
Oh,
called Superman Presents the Phantom Zone. It's a 4-issue limited series I picked up on Free Comic Book Day.
nice. You know what? This makes me think of something else. I fucking loved when Marvell and Rick were switching in and out of the Phantom Zone, and Rick's like, I feel something watching me, Annihilus. And I'm
Yeah,
like, why did no one ever think of that? Like, that's an awesome
right.
idea. It's like, I was just like, I mean, it built the tension, and like, I just loved it. It really did make me want to go back and like look at some of those Captain Marvel issues. Because like just like Sean said, it made me think of the Billy Batson Captain Marvel uh thing, but it also was just like there's just it was just interesting. It was I don't know, I a character that I never really encountered other than the Death graphic novel, really. So uh yeah,
It looks like right now the the it looks like Robin Williams had it was like the first podcast-ish thing. It was Robin Williams on audible.com. It looks like right now they're unavailable because Audible lost the rights
the
and
there's a I won't say anything because I don't want to get him in trouble, but there's a YouTube channel that has all of them.
okay,
And I had been listening to Harlan Ellison stuff because Harlan Ellison is um,
fascinating guy.
fascinating. And there's like this two-parter with him and Robin Williams, and I when I put it up, I said, the trigger warning is implicit because Harlan doesn't give a shit about your feelings. Uh, but I don't know. It did make me think of what was it? It was yet another story that I'd like to really look into is when Harlan was interviewed in it was Gary Groth's magazine, whatever it was called. I can't remember at the top of my head, but it was Gary Groth,
Comics Journal.
Comics Journal. And he started talking about, I think it was Mike Friedrich, who wrote all of those Spectre stories. And he was like, yeah, he's certifiable. The guy's a madman. He's insane. And then he sued Harlan for it, for libel. And like Harlan had to raise all this money for his legal defense and all of this stuff. And he's like, and it's funny because he's talking to Robin Williams. He's like, I was complimenting him. That stuff was insane. And I'm like, what an interesting story. Maybe I should just do a whole series of one-act plays about
Is that a recent
Harlan Ellison's.
interview or an older one?
Oh, it was like way back.
It
Like it
would
was the
have
early,
to be.
yeah, well, yeah. but it was the guy. I want to say it's Friedrich, but it might not be. Um, but it was the guy. He wrote the Spectre, and he was the one. And it was the Jim Aparo drawn Spectre in the 70s, where it was just gruesome. Like every time the Spectre like punished somebody, it was always like uh deeply disturbing. Like turn a guy into a block of, turn a guy into wood and then have a chainsaw come out and chop him up and you know, it's just crazy ass shit. And the depths of like disturbing thought process. Love it. Kind of like what was that movie?
Oh,
Uh
okay. Yeah, I found it.
what was that horror movie with Julian Sands where he was like the he was like some sort of supernatural figure. Do you remember these, Sean?
No.
It was like he was like the warlock. That's what it was. But there was one. It reminded me so much of one of the end of those Spectre stories because there was some guy who was a collector of modern art, and Julian Sands like turned him into a modern art sculpture. Like they had the shot of Julian Sands like taking his hands and like doing this, and then they show the guy as like this really distorted modern art piece with two eyes and a mouth going, ah,
This was a movie? Oh,
yeah,
War,
yeah,
the Armageddon.
yeah. And I caught it on late night television and I was like, oh, I'm not watching that movie.
And Warlock. Satan also has one son. He's come from the past to destroy the future.
There you go. But I just remember that moment. It made me think of the end of those Spectre stories where you know, the comeuppance. Anyway,
Ah, the comeuppance.
the comeuppance for the bad person. Anyway,
Those Spectre stories are great.
yeah, freaky as hell. Um, yeah. So yeah, let's see. We got to the end of these three issues.
Interesting to see what happens when the Avengers get fired.
Well,
The new Avengers get fired by the old Avengers
Yeah.
is what comes next.
Hank and Jan have quit
Right.
because Hank has decided he can't be a superhero. He's probably going to go smack her around again.
Hank is, yeah.
I, I don't know. Um,
We've got some Neil Adams art coming up.
We do.
yep.
We do. So I'm just gonna say we came up with something. The bronze what?
The Men of Bronze.
Men of Bronze.
For the men of bronze, we're gonna say the people of bronze. For the people of bronze book club on 22 panels. We will see you after the next page.